Number 8 is in Arabic what's called ihtiqan or hukna. Basically in English, that's enema or a liquid injection. It's a suppository that's used. In our modern times with medical changes, that's no longer a common treatment. But in the past, this was actually a very common treatment for many, many conditions. And basically the intestines would absorb that liquid that had medication in it. And this was a very common way of treatment. Now when it comes to ihtiqan, the suppository, enema, the liquid supplement, we actually have conflicting hadiths about this. And now, as a scholar who knows jurisprudence, you have to take these hadiths and reconcile them. So let me share with you how scholars go through this process. We have 3 categories of hadiths when it comes to ihtiqan or hukna. The first category of hadith that we have, it says it's permissible. La ba'sa bihi. Hadith from the Imam that says using enema in general or a suppository in general is allowed. That's one category of hadith that we have. Another category of hadith that we have, it says لا يجوز للصائم أن يحتقن. It's not permissible. It's prohibited. That's the second category of hadiths that we have. Yes. Ihtiqan is using a liquid injection like a suppository or an enema. If you know what an enema is, basically it's a type of suppository that is directly drawn by the intestines. It's a suppository that was commonly used. It's still used today, maybe it's not that common. So this is the second category of hadiths. Now when you look at these 2 hadiths, you see there's a contradiction, right? One category says this is permissible, la ba'sa bihi, doesn't harm. The second category says what? La yajuz, it's not permissible. We have a third category of hadith that actually resolves the contradiction between these 2, the apparent contradiction. There is no contradiction. It seems there is a contradiction. But when we look at the third category of hadiths, that actually solves the contradiction for us. The third category of hadith states, if the suppository, if the enema being used, if the injection being used is liquid, it invalidates the fast. If it's solid, it does not invalidate the fast. Because when it comes to suppositories, there's 2 types. There's a liquid injection, and then you have the what? The solid ones. There's solid suppositories that are used. This third hadith removes the contradiction between these 2. So that first category which says permissible, which type of hukna is it making permissible? The solid one. And the second category of hadith that says it's invalid, la yajuz lis-sa'im, it's not permissible, which type of hukna is it referring to? The liquid one. Hence the fatwa of scholars is the following: if the hukna is solid, it's a solid suppository, that does not invalidate the siyam. If it's a liquid suppository, yes it does.
But it can be solid, but once it gets into your body, it becomes...
Once it goes inside the body, obviously sometimes it will, for example, dissolve and become liquid-like. That does not invalidate the fasting. When inserted, it has to be in the state of solid. That's what counts when it's used. So in the past, this was actually something very common. It was used for a number of illnesses, treatments, people who had maybe colon issues, bowel issues, constipation. It was used for a number of purposes. Today it's not that common, especially in the West. In more maybe Asian and Middle Eastern societies, it's still more common. So that is actually one of the acts that invalidate the fast. Now let's say if a person is prescribed by the doctor to have the hukna, the injection, of course, that would not be haram for them to do that, but they would have to make it up after the month of Ramadan.